thank you to both our guests from this session. I'd like to just extend my gratitude to Diwaveri. She is a lawyer in India and also with a bachelor degree on technology sciences and MBA also in the technology sector. And I'd like also to extend my gratitude to my dear friend, Dr. Jassim Haji. Dr. Jassim Haji is the president of Artificial Intelligence Society and president of International Group of Artificial Intelligence, IGOI. Actually, they are both members of IGOI. Dr. Jassim Haji is the chairman of this institution, and Diva is one of the many collaborators of this fantastic institution in which I am also a member, a happily member of this great family of artificial intelligence studiers. Me and Vera are here to talk a little bit about some challenges of artificial intelligence, and we would love to have your thoughts on this particular matter of artificial intelligence and law system in general. So Vera, what do you say?
Well, can we start straight with the questions so they have the opportunity to talk and we only listen, right? Okay, my first question is, how important is artificial intelligence in the public service?
Service is a very beautiful word actually, and I do believe that if government is not doing that, then there is no one who can actually provide any services in the country. Neither the NGOs nor anyone, because everyone at the end go towards government and ask their help in a sense, not only in terms of finances but in terms of providing technology, providing a way ahead. So in India, I can talk about like government provides all of the infrastructure like most of the countries in the world. It's totally government run, and since government is the one, parliament is the one which makes the laws, they try and make it more citizen centric so that we can benefit more out of it. Currently, all of the countries who are already developed and who are developing, who are struggling in this society, they are also focusing a lot on artificial intelligence. And in India, we started focusing on it quite uh, longer years back. Like we started when I was studying, I understood AI in neural network terms, but then that was engineering aspect. But nowadays, even legal area is also using a lot of AI. It has been mostly used for contract drafting and other purposes, but then now India is looking forward to uploading a lot of cases, which will give us a good perspective as in what kind of final destination are we trying to reach. So when you talk about public services, are all of the ministries are fully equipped with all kind of artificial intelligence software especially, which help us in tracking a lot of systematic errors as well. Like if you call a number, we never used to get a call back, like I can say 20 years ago, but now if we have dropped the call as well, when we are calling in distress, we get a call back, which is not a very usual response in many of the developing countries. So that I would say is one of the public services which we have seen a difference in. Other than that, in education we have seen a lot of difference being made by government and private sector both. How they have served is they have reached out to maximum schools and provided them internet and online education. And in pandemic, it has been obviously a boon for many people, many kids who earlier were not that much able to access these kind of services. Most important was healthcare, where we could track whosoever was COVID affected or not. So that's how we see that we have progressed, and let's see where AI takes us. I am very optimistic. Even if I'm in legal field, I feel like yeah, we are moving way faster than expected. And these couple of years, they have definitely taught us a lot. So I think I'll stop here and rather would love to listen to Dr. Haji as well, because that's my concept from Indian perspective. Thank you.
How important is artificial intelligence in the public service?
First of all, I'd like to value and thank Divya for her inputs and candid views, as always. Today, artificial intelligence is not at its maturity level that we expect it to be. That only means one thing. There is continuous investment, and the investments are not coming cheap until we get to the level where we think it is a commodity, and where we get to a level where we think no code and zero code development of AI is at disposals of everybody, where doctors can develop their own AI system without the knowledge, without the algorithms that's required behind it, or without the development and coding that they require to do. Until we get that stage, there is a lot of investment need to be done in that area. So saying that, the world, I think, in the public sector will be divided more and more. Now, with all the respect, now if you look at the 5 continents, today there isn't a big gap between technological availabilities, i.e., if you look at the internet, it's available in Africa, it's available in Asia, in the Middle East, maybe in different speeds and different stabilities, but it's available everywhere. A laptop and portable devices are also available everywhere, which makes the world connected and developed at the same level. But when we come to the AI, unfortunately, we will see in future a bigger gap between countries. We see countries who will develop and have smarter cities with AI in the backbone, probably in developed countries, in the richer countries, but we'll see other countries who cannot afford the infrastructure and the innovation to bring their cities to that level will be lagging by several years. So that makes the world, if I'm putting it the right way, divided. So you'll see countries in the next 3-4 years will be much smarter than the countries who may take 15, 20 or more to get there. So public sector will be the core of it. That's why we in the Middle East see there's a lot of investment in the new cities that is coming, and then they go to billions. We're fortunate to see in the west of Saudi Arabia, the new city of Neom City that is coming up. And by 2030, expecting $350 billion invested on the roads, on the cities, on the schoolings, medical care, etc. So there is a lot of focus. There are people coming from different parts of the world. There are competitions on what to be innovated. And the issue here is that AI is not coming out of the shelves. So nobody at this stage can claim that have sufficient experience on the table to claim that we are the leaders in certain areas over others. And as they go, they develop algorithms, they develop solutions to customize it, to implement it in the public sector. On a high level, this is the if you like, the helicopter views of how AI will be engaged in the countries and the public sectors. We'll go deep dive in it probably in a few minutes.
I see. Dr. Haji, I guess some people still believe or see or realize that artificial intelligence is something far, far away. But I could notice from your answer, as also with Diva's answer, that artificial intelligence is on the common ground of several public services already been implemented on a commercial level, on a public sector level, etc. I'd like to hear, Dr. Haji, how do you believe, how do you think that artificial intelligence could and can, in fact, do improve citizens' welfare based on this public service that you already mentioned?
Thank you, my friend. is very subjective, if I may answer that question in a different folds, because again, it depends which citizen you are and what is your situation in the community. If you are a citizen who is looking for have their breeds every day taken from the jobs that are routinely done and is comfortable in a certain zone, then probably that's the bad news, because you will find some of the jobs that you are relying on or some of the activities may disappear. And there are more competition on some of those jobs that are available in the market, whether it's in the public or private sector. But if you are in a country that the citizenship means you have to innovate and come up with challenges that surrounds you, then you might find yourself excited and to go towards that. It's I'm going to talk a little bit later. This is AI and what surrounds it, the machine learning, deep learning. This is something that people think will take over the world and will be there until 2050 or 2040. But what they don't realize is, from what we know, from what our limited horizon allow us to think, that this is going to come up in the next 10 years or 15 years. What we don't realize is that this may disappear in 5 years' time or 7 years' time and be replaced with something even more advanced. And everybody was talking about augmented reality and virtual reality, correct? A mixed reality. Now, with the metaverse availability and rise of metaverse in the last 1 year, if I say, the others are taking a cornerstone. The metaverse is the future, is the avatars that are developed. These are the ones that will take over the workspace, the education, if we challenge it. If you think there are, to our friend Divya, there are legal challenges related to governance to the AI and security. Now think about metaverse, and then you'll think, wow, those challenges are nothing. You're talking about creating virtual environments and bringing dead people into life. How ethical is that? How can you handle that? There are many challenges. Just to give you a quick example, 3 days ago, there was a wedding party on metaverse, and the groom and bride's parents were, died several years ago, but they brought them to that party alive to witness the wedding, and they were all enjoying it. So there was different views on that. Is that something that we're going to have or not? So to cut this long story short, we know only what we know for what is in front of us.
Yes, I do understand this. It's quite interesting to see that we have a quite limited time to make some assumptions on the future, because everything changes so fast. What about you, Diva? Such technologies as AI could improve the citizenship welfare on the public service that you already mentioned. Do you believe that it is a thing?
Wow, Dr. Haji's examples have blown my mind, though I had read about that marriage thing which happened in Metaverse. For me, see, whenever I see a technology or anything, it has a lifetime as what we in engineering are being taught. So I won't say AI has a lifetime as of now. We cannot define that when it will end or when it will progress to some other different new technology. But what I see first is from the point of view of equality. Like when Dr. Haji was answering earlier, he said that right now almost all the countries are on the almost same level, because there is a lot of investment. So obviously it will make a difference in future when developed countries will have more input of money in that AI, and probably they will progress in a different manner. But currently, if we see, we are on kind of equal pedestal. Everyone is talking in the same superficial world, I would say. For me, when I think about AI, I think that it cannot think right now beyond what we know as humans. So if it cannot think beyond what we have given AI the input, how is it going to take over the world or maybe take over our jobs? It has to learn like we have learned over time. It may learn whatever we have learned in, say, 30 years within like 3 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, but it cannot go beyond that knowledge level. I can say about that in terms of brain as well. If you see, human brain has a capacity of get taking a lot of input and processing it in as human as possible manner. So when I see AI, I feel like, why are people scared about it, that AI will take over the world? It will not, because we as humans are not going to let it happen. That is not going to happen, at least not in our lifetimes. Now, when we think about public services, most important, I'll give you an example. A couple of days ago, we had a news about elderlies getting feeling a lot lonely, and in India, we started a helpline where they can call and talk to the people. That's something where AI can definitely help. It's not like everyone is very capable of doing psychological talk on phone and give elderly that kind of comfort. So I think over there some services can be helpful. In healthcare, AI is already helping a lot. A lot of elderlies, a lot of children are getting a lot of help, even in different kind of diseases like autism and others. AI has been quite helpful with kids. It gives a different view. We just have to, for me, we have to think from the positive side rather than negative one, because for negative there are so many scientists to fight about. Let's think about positive and do the social work. And I really agree with Dr. Haji, but my issue is always that I'm first a social worker by heart. So end of the day, I start thinking that it is definitely helping a lot of people, especially women. They have got a lot of work. Now they are being called back to work even after having a sabbatical of more than a decade, because for whatever reason they left their work. So technology definitely is helping us. For me, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Divya. I have a question, because we talked about artificial intelligence in the public service. We talked about technology improving citizens' welfare, and being very specific. My question is, how would you define artificial intelligence, first of all? Second, how does it differ from machine learning? And we also talk about deep learning. Are the three things similar? What is the difference between all these definitions or expressions?
Look, if you ask me what is the specific definition of artificial intelligence, and I will say there are no specific definitions of artificial intelligence. If you ask 50 people what is definition of artificial intelligence, you'll get 51 answers. So it depends from your perspective, from your innovations, what you would think. If you ask me, I would say, in a simple way for a layman to understand, it's mimicking human behavior, human thinking, humans' predictions to allow a reaction similar to what a human does. Because at the end of the day, artificial intelligence is benchmarking itself with the human. So as simple as that. This is where it started in 1956. John McCarthy in the US and the universities tried to bring some sense out of it to the artificial intelligence. And as I said today, artificial intelligence is not about artificial intelligence and deep learning and machine learning. You can put all the solutions that you want with algorithms. What it matters is the data. Data is the key part of it. So people shouldn't focus on AI and forget that. As a human, how much memory in megas you can store in your brain and how much you can retrieve, and it depends on the age, depends your IQ, is all, very similar. When we say somebody is smarter than the other person, we always forget, or somebody who have better memory than another person, we always forget that conjunction is very similar to what you think you are brighter than me. If you compare it to the machines, that's negligible. So if you talk about the humans' capacity of storage and recollection, this is where the difference is going to be, not on the how to think. So the data is growing and growing massively. And if I throw back to you a question, both of you, how much data you think we will have by the next 2 to 2.5 years? It will be a number that probably you haven't even used, is 19.2 zettabytes. Now, you know how many zeros are in zettabytes? 21 zeros. So it's 10 to the square of 21. So 19.2 of that. Imagine that data and that number, you cannot even write it, let alone imagining it. What you're going to do with that data? How are you going to govern it? How countries going to put the borders on the data? How they're going to exchange the data? How AI is going to train those data? And this is where branches of AI comes. Of course, the AI sits on the top, but then machine learning and deep learning comes at the bottom of it. Machine learning has also branches, like you go to start of it where the what the data tags, and this you call it supervised machine learning, and then you go to the next level, which is unsupervised, where you don't even tag the data and they come on their own, and then to the next level, which is reinforcement, and that's where machines tries to make its own assumptions for the data that has not experienced before. And this is where the experience comes, when Tiago is a value today to us because he learned so much, but when he retires after 80 years, we will miss all his experiences. But with the machine learning, you don't. As it grows, it brings value, it learns, and it continues to be your partner. And then, when you put natural language processing, the NLPs, on top of the machine learning, you come up with solutions such as chatbots and the conversational chatbots, where it goes to the data and collects it, and then you make sense out of the questions, and then you will make decisions. And this is where you will find the futuristics banks, the new banks. The new, of course, is not NEW, it's NEO banks, where this is totally virtual, and there are no staffs, no boundaries, no branches, and the chatbots will do all the conversations, transactionals, and even the investments will be done based on the predictions of AI. So a lot of complexity, a lot of excitement, but a lot of fears out of this is going to come. I will let the opportunity for Divya to take over as well.
Yeah, I think 3 words, right? Challenging, frightening, and perhaps, excitement. I don't know. Yeah.
Excitement.
Exciting. I don't know. Challenging, but for sure, frightening, really frightening. Well, let's see. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jasin. I'd like just to hear your thoughts briefly, Jasin. What do you believe, what do you think of still using us in general, still using the terminology artificial intelligence? We see a great movement of enthusiasts of this that shares with the world that artificial intelligence terminology will not fit better because it's so much generic and so much inappropriate. I'd like to hear you. Do you believe it's okay to still using artificial intelligence, or do you prefer, for instance, to use machine learning and as a specific branch of artificial intelligence or something like that, my friend?
Machine learning is a subset, but it depends where do you use it. I mean, if you're talking in a general public and to others, the AI is the word to
Teach better.
describe and to communicate. But if you talking but technical, and then even
Specific.
ML is not
Machine
specific, then we can go deeper and talk about NLP and ML, or you talk about unsupervised ML and so on. But
I understand.
to me, it depends on the application. Where do you use it, and that makes it more specific than general terminologies, and it depends who you are addressing it.
I understand. I share your thoughts as well. Dr. Jiva, my dear friend, I do understand, I do realize that you are already in the legal system of India, and I'd like you to share with us, if you can, a little bit of the current usage of artificial intelligence in your country, the prognostics and the perspectives. What can you share with us about this topic?
I would like to start from, we are trying to use it everywhere possible. We are just experimenting like everyone else. We are trying to understand exactly how it is going to be fruitful in terms of reducing the case files, reducing the grievances, and probably trying to find a solution which is amicably accepted by the judges, by the lawyers, and by the most important people who actually are the clients who face all the ordeals. But what I see is currently we have not moved way too forward in terms of criminal justice system when it comes to AI. What we are fearing is, if we introduce completely the AI system and that, what kind of predictions will it be taking up? We are a little bit skeptical, and everyone is, because you never know what kind of bias will seep in while you are providing them data regarding this criminal justice system. In crime, as a human judge, he or she will have a different perspective to every kind of case which comes in front of them. Now, AI will always see everything in black and white or code 0 or 1, and it will give a systematic answer. But when you see as a human, there may be a possibility that a person is not a repeat offender. So what then? Because AI will be developed in such a manner that it will always see offender as an offender only. It will not see a first time offender as a human more than second time offender or a regular offender. But then the thing is, that also is skepticism. Other than that, we have tried to implement AI in contracts, which all of the world is doing, because they are the most I think easy place to implement it, and there will not be a lot of conflict, and people will be there. Still we are there, we check it even after if it is being drafted by AI or the whole software system which is developed by the companies. But it's not that easy to implement it in the justice system as such. And it's not only in India. I keep on reading about other developed countries as well. They are also very skeptical. Like EU, right, right ahead, they said that we are not going to provide patent to them. It has to be a human. South Africa only gave that patent to an AI, even though they also quoted that a human counterpart is there. Australia denied, US denied. So somehow everyone is showing that skepticism through human judges. We have no idea which way it will go, but all of us are experimenting. It all depends, like Dr. Haji keeps on saying, that it all depends on data. And seriously, if that amount of data is there, how are we going to process it? No idea is there. And which way AI will move? All of a sudden, we are seeing a lot of algorithmic bias is there, then there is a lot of racial bias, then there is gender bias. Everything has already been in AI, and no one is right now capable of saying that no, we know how to remove bias, because you don't know. It's humans who have developed AI, so there is no way we can remove bias. If we are not non-biased people, how? We are very judgmental race. See, human race is a totally judgmental race. We judge everything according to what we feel is good or bad. So us being so judgmental, I really don't see a way out for AI to not being biased. Because recently I was reading in a book that even bridges made by humans were made in such a way that it catered to one race, and it removed access to the other race, which in itself is biased. And if this kind of data is being put in AI, what result do we see? And it's the same it is going with justice system as well. How can we expect it to be black and white and give us good results? No, it won't. That's why I think people are talking now about AI and human rights and AI and humanity and making it more ethical, trustworthy, responsible. But always I have only one issue with all this. How do you say that AI will become that much responsible if we as humans are not that responsible? I don't see any person who can say, no, I'm 100% true. I never lie. It cannot happen. I just cannot accept that fact. So that's always there. Let's keep that in mind for AI as well.
Great. Well, we know that artificial intelligence applications may replace, as Dr. Hassan said, people doing sometimes repetitive tasks, etc., etc. How would you consider being judged by an artificial intelligence judge?
Given the fact that it is as human as we are, which is not possible, at least in our lifetime. So I think I'll not be that comfortable. Unless it's like only giving some challan or something where you have booked a car and you just have to get it released, because there is not much of humanity being needed over there. It's just a fine factor. So I think till that I'm fine, but other than that, I don't think I'll be able to digest the fact that an AI is judging me.
There are some professions that will not be replaced by a robot or machine, at least not in a long, in a few years, let's say, right? And I believe that all these, Dr. Frasin, please correct me if I make any mistakes. But I believe that the professions that really need the interaction, people and people, people interacting, is the ones that are really going to take longer to be substituted by robots and applications and whatever.
Look, I don't think that matters at the beginning. What matters now is where the investment is going to be logically returned on the time and the money is spent. I think that's the issue. Now, people, the governments and companies will not invest on jobs that are highly skilled and very few people doing it. So that's not going to happen in real life or soon. What the companies, the private and public sector, is going to aim are solutions that's going to impact majority of the people or majority of the functions or majority of the jobs. So why RPA, robotic processing automation, is successful? Because RPA does replace repetitive functions, for instance, in the back office of the accounting or in the back office of the auditing. So if an organization, for instance, has 60% of its job repetitive in the back office, now such solutions from AI will, it doesn't matter if those jobs are, smart jobs or they are related to the human interactions or not, but that will pave the way. This will, for instance, reduce many routine jobs. Why AI in the supermarkets are, for instance, replacing cashiers are more important, because it's going to remove, for instance, in the big stores, 20 out of the 30 cashiers. So they're going to save the time, they're going to save on the salaries, etc. And so on. Why the chat box is going to replace, for instance, in the Salesforce, the biggest company in the world, interacting with customers. Why they're focusing on the chatbots? Because they have so many agents. They're going to get rid of the agents and they're going to have chatbots. It's going to be quicker. It's going to be more time efficient. They're going to get more accuracy, and the sales of the company is going to repeat. So I think the focus for the next few years is going to be the majority of the routine activities that is going to be targeted. It's not going to, the bank's not going to start with few brokers that sitting in the dealing room to replace their jobs. They will start with the cashiers, the call centers, the people who doing, for instance, the fraud management. Today, fraud management, for instance, if you look at the time, 80% of the frauds takes by the fraud management team from 4 to 6 months to be able to identify those frauds are real, genuine or not. And out of that, 20% remaining, then they will have to investigate further to identify where the fraud happens. And most of the time you find out after 4 to 6 months that those fraud happens and they're non-reversible. So the humans here interaction has been wasteful, expensive, and not to the result. But with AI, imagine from 4 to 6 months, that is a real example, it brings it down to 120 to 180 seconds. You're talking about 2 to 3 minutes. So imagine having to identify a fraud, and I'm saying this case because I have a meeting tomorrow about one of the financial sectors to talk about the fraud management with AI. Now, bringing it down to 120 to 180 seconds, imagine how many frauds you're going to identify as early as possible and to be able to action them. So I think these are the thoughts where it makes more sense and value is going to be prioritized.
Oh, thanks so much, Dr. Jassin. This perspective that you already shared with us, I didn't ever come to my mind. It's quite interesting to talk about these matters because we came in contact with different perspectives of the same problem. And this perspective that you already shared with us, I didn't even thought on the possibility of this spending problem that you first share with us, because as my mind, the problem to be judged by an artificial intelligence judge, for instance, it was mostly is a practical problem. The economic perspective on this changes everything. The question, it's not the problem, the machine would be able to do it properly. The question would be, would the machine do it reasonably and with a low cost? This question must be in our minds. I guess it's a real perspective for the next few years, Dr. Jassin. I guess you are correct, my friend, as always. Dr. Jiva, are you familiarized with jury metrics? Do you believe that statistics can improve the possibility to have a better way to deal with a legal suit?
I'll be very honest that I had read about it in my college time, that there is something called science of law and where statistics is used. Before I answer that, I have a question for Dr. Haji, as in he was talking about AI and audit, and I was very fascinated at that time because I am studying right now for AI audits, how to audit AI. AI auditing us is fine. How then to audit AI? What will happen then? That is a very curious question which I always have. So I have that. That being said, statistics always is audited. So he'll be the best person to answer you about it, because that without audit, you cannot find what was the right statistical aspect used. Jury metrics, definitely I am aware of. I have read about it. I have tried to understand it from the perspective of our laws in place. Now, only problem is how much statistical analysis can be put in perspective when we are talking about the jurisprudence itself. As in, what kind of data, what kind of case laws are being provided, how is it being understood, what answer or what judgment was considered good, what judgment was considered bad. It's not that easy to put it in graphs. It's not easy to put it in tabular form. So how will statistics help? I am a little curious to understand it even further. Because in statistics, what I know from my statistical study or whatever I did in my school days is it is a very clear documentation. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, and you combine, you find either a mean, median, or mode, and then you get an answer. But how will you do that with social sciences? How does that affect the whole legal fraternity? I really can't answer it, because every case is different in its own sense. There may be similar cases, but they will not be same. So how will you find that particular mode or median for statistical analysis? So I really don't know whether uh, it will be that good for us, or maybe law can be statistically analyzed or not. People definitely have talked about it. The person who started was, I think, Mr. Lee. He started this word, and how much it has progressed, I'm sorry to say, I did not reach that place. But then AI definitely cannot be considered as a statistical analytic tool only, because AI definitely thinks in a different manner. We have built AI in a different way, and statistics will help if we have the same cases, if we have a pool of similar cases, and then dissimilar cases, and then probably we'll get one answer. But as of now, I don't feel that we are going to get a lot of output from applying statistics in law.
I see, Dr. Jiva. I share some of these thoughts, and I do believe that the values, the human values, as you were already mentioned on your other answer, are quite significant to the judge for defining these. That's why this economic perspective that Dr. Jasin just shared with us light me as a light in itself, because I sometimes we forgot this economic aspect of our life, and it's quite significant. This is a thesis shared by Coase, the social cost. Dr. Jasin was already sharing with us the necessity of observing the economy on the solution presented, and this is a quite significant factor. And I do believe that using statistics can help at some point, but will not help in every decision. But at some point also I must to understand that this solution could be used to help on some problems due to an economic factor.
I have one last question for Dr. Hassin. Do you believe that machine learning is the best solution for all problems we have?
It's a broad and difficult to make a statement in few words. But what I can tell you today, if you take any occupation, and this is not my word, take any occupation and just Google it. And say, for instance, I don't know, carpentry and AI. Plumbing and AI. Just you name it. You will find a solution that somebody has started somewhere, and I guarantee you on that. So take my word for it. But how valuable was that? How successful? How much was it implemented? And how many places? I'll go back to say, how much does that contribute to the economy, to the welfare, to the bottom line? For instance, I've seen robots, in places. Don't forget, people also do AI for marketing purpose and for the advertisement, not for the real cause. So, you have a university, you want to promote, for instance, people to come and study with you AI. So you put a robot, and the reception says, if you want to register for the next course, press this and do that. So that's more of, promoting your function. It's not no real value out of it. So you see robots coming in the warehouses, taking boxes from one place to another. Now, the cost of making one of those equals the salary of 50 people on a low cost to move the boxes from one place to another. So that doesn't have any value. That's not going to do the functions. At some stage, humans are cheaper than AI. Don't forget. So not always AI is cheaper. Lower jobs that's there. So I wouldn't say everywhere, but there are places. Again, if I say if there are data, And if human is interacting with that data one way or another in any functions, you will find eventually AI will do it faster and relatively more accurate based on the efforts. And don't forget, the accuracy when it comes to the lump sum, it doesn't mean a one-on-one with the human. So Tiago could sit behind the desk and analyze a story, in 5 days from every aspect. But if he has to do that to those stories, he will be able to do only few every month. But at the same rate, we could have a machine learning doing it in 5 minutes, although the accuracy and the quality could be 20% less than what Tiago does it, but that's acceptable, taking the consideration of the values. And my last point is back to Divya's on how AI does the self-auditing, and that's interesting because I always talk about it. AI also did similar things in the cybersecurity. You can hack an AI machine, so AI should protect itself from hackers from outside, but it also should be able to monitor itself and monitor other devices. The same thing goes with the auditing. You can use AI for auditing the documents of other companies, but as AI, like a human, gets matured, there are certain instances that are more mature than the other ones that can sit on top of the other algorithms and monitor and audit the functions that happens. But that, again, it depends on the algorithms that you build. If you put the wrong algorithms, then it grows to become wrong, and when you want to correct it, it's like any equations. You take an equation of algorithms. If you reach to the bottom of the page and you find your answer is wrong, you cannot just go one step back and correct the algorithm. You have to go right at the beginning, demolish everything, and start it. I hope I haven't complicated it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see, Dr. Jassin. I see. It's quite interesting, my friend, that this economic aspect always on our mind. And for our final question, I'd like to share to you both, my friends, Dr. Jassin first and then Dr. Divya. Do you believe, my dear friend, that in a brief future or not so brief future, will lawyers and judges will be professions in extinction due to the AI factor?
I will not overstep Divya's profession. She's a lawyer, so she would understand it better. But I will take a statement from one of the chairmen of the big audit companies, without naming them, and that I think that statement is key to every profession. And he was telling in a town hall to his employees, he says, the function of the accountant and the auditors in future may go away for the traditional accountant and auditors. So their job might go away. But those accountants and auditors who enforce their job with AI will have upper hand, and their functions will always be on demand. So now I say the same things for the judges and the lawyers and others. I said those probably, with all the respects, the lawyers who continue doing their functions traditionally, or those courts that continue doing their functions in a traditional way with the documents and reviews, those may be in a jeopardy in the near future. But those who take an advanced steps to analyze, to, for instance, as I said, you don't have to go to, for instance, a murder case to give it to an AI to solve it. But every day you have, for instance, thousands of traffic tickets. You have thousands of checks that are returned. They have thousands of embezzlements. Those are straightforward cases that, 1 + 1 = 2. You have the documents, you have the evidences. So those analysis, I'm sure, can be done by AI at certain levels. They're maybe not the most complex ones, but they form the majority of the time of the judges. So they may focus on more complicated tasks rather than these ones. It's the same thing with the doctors. Maybe you found the normal radiology is done by AI and leave them for complex cases.
Yes, that's a specific terminology that I'd like to share with you, Dr. Jassin. There is a jurist from US named Dworkin, and he specific defines two types of legal norms: easy cases and hard cases. Easy cases are these ones that you are already mentioned, straightforward on the decision, and the hard cases needs indeed a more axiological analysis of the values and on the behind. I do believe in that.
Wow. So I'll say a couple of sentences regarding that, but before I explain anything, in any profession, it's not only legal or any other profession, the competent ones never have to be fearful of losing their jobs. The incompetent ones are the first ones who are thrown out of the most of the companies, be it government or private, doesn't matter. So that being said, even AI is not going to replace anyone unless that person is totally incompetent. That was true even before technology was there and it was affecting lawyers. Why I'm saying that? Because I have seen it firsthand in courts, that how is it that in the same environment there are certain lawyers who are doing very beautifully and who are getting a lot of cases, who are making their name, who are actually doing good for society as well, and at the same place some of them are there who are only licensing work. So if you're doing mediocre work, how can you expect to have more nice work where your name can be flourished? No, it won't happen. And similarly, those are the people who are more afraid of technology advent in legal field. Why? Because if you are not equipped with law, you cannot survive in law. Similarly, if you're not equipped with technology, you will not survive in technology and law both. Because nowadays everything is going online. If you do not know how to type and if you're not ready to work on a computer, you do not know how to email even, then how do you expect yourself to survive in such a field? It may work like in India, there is 3-step system. One is the lowest court, and then there is a high court, then there is a Supreme Court. There is only one Supreme Court, fine. So that is the highest place. And there also, if someone says that, no, I'm not very comfortable with technology, then how do you accept that person as a big time lawyer? So you have to understand the person who becomes bigger becomes because of their knowledge and capacity to adapt. Because we are told, right, that if you know how to adapt, you can survive. Survival of the fittest is always true. It's not only in sciences where it's said. So like you said, economy and everything will survive and people will also survive, but then it has to be the fittest person who will survive. Even if AI takes over, doesn't matter.
Vera, would you like to say final words?
Yeah, I would like to thank very much Dr. Hassin for his time and for all these great answers, so we could understand a bit more about artificial intelligence and how it goes on and how it works, etc., etc. And also I would like to thank very much Divya for also her time and acceptance for being one of our interviewees today. Thank you very much. On behalf of CEST, I thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Vera. I'd like to especially extend my gratitude once more for my dear friend, Dr. Jassin, and my also dear friend, Dr. Diva. You are both fantastic. Thanks so much for, and I do believe that CEST, everyone on CEST will be very pleased to hear. I'd like also Dr. Jassin, as a chairman of IGOY, I'd like also to express gratitude to IGOY and congrats this fantastic community that you created. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Just like to thank you again for the opportunity. It was a great evening. I had a blocked nose, but I already feel better talking to you guys. So next time I have any malfunctions in my body, I will call you to have a call. But yeah, on serious note, thank you to you, Vera, and thank you, Divya, for joining me.
Thanks so much, Diva.
Thank you, first of all, for inviting me, and thank you, Dr. Jassim, for being such a sport who always keeps on talking about so many of my favorite topics like AI and cybersecurity, for that matter. And you seriously are carrying the baton to the highest level possible. Thank you for organizing such amazing webinars. I usually never miss them. If I miss them, I go through the seminar website and find them. And Diego, thank you so much for always being such a good friend. And Vera, it was really lovely meeting you. And I really do hope that we end up doing a lot of good, apart from sitting in the room, maybe on ground. Let's start doing that as well. Probably then we'll be lesser scared.
Thanks so much, guys. Already miss you. See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So, bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum.